Hey everybody, in this video we're talking about completing the square to solve equations, but our answers are going to be irrational. So before we had rational answers, so they were fractions or they were like 4, 5, 6, numbers like that. In this case, we're going to have numbers that have like a square root in them to make them irrational. So same idea holds, just at the very end, we got to simplify the answer in a little bit of a different way. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my 13 to the other side, okay? 2x squared plus 4 or minus 4x plus blank equals 13 plus blank. Then we got to factor out our a value. So a squared minus 2x, or sorry, x squared minus 2x plus blank equals 13 plus blank. Take our new b value, which is negative 2, and we're going to do negative 2 over 2 squared. Negative 1 squared, which is just 1. So add a 1 here. It's not really 1 though, right? It's a 2, so you add a 2 here. We're then going to factor. What are factors of 1 that add up to negative 2? Negative 1. So x minus 1 squared, because it's negative 1 and negative 1, and you get 15. Okay. So now I'm going to divide by 2. You can already see a fraction coming, okay? Because the 15 does not go into 2, or the 2 does not go into 15. But that's okay. We're just going to leave it like that. I'm not going to put a decimal. We're not going to write it as a mixed number. Just leave it as 15 over 2. I'm now going to square root both parts, okay? So when I square root it, I get x minus 1 hanging out over here. I'm going to get plus or minus, and I'm going to break up my square root into the numerator and the denominator. Now, we know how to rationalize square roots. We did that earlier at the beginning of online learning. You're going to take your denominator, square root of 2, multiply it to the top, multiply it to the bottom. So you're going to get square root of 30 over square root of 4, which square root of 4 is just 2. So we're going to have x minus 1 equals plus or minus square root of 30 over 2. Okay? And then we're going to have, add the 1 over, and x is going to be 1 plus or minus square root of 30 over 2, and that would be your answer. So everything's the same from last week up to this point right here. Okay? You have to add the radical part, the rationalizing denominators, to your answer. Okay, let's do another one. Let's do, move this over here. Let's do b squared plus 4b minus 23 equals 0. Okay. b squared plus 4b minus 23 equals 0. So I'm going to add the 23 over. We're going to get b squared plus 4b plus blank equals 23 plus blank. A is 1, so I don't have to factor anything out. So I can just do 4 over 2 squared, which is 2. 2 squared is 4. So I add a 4 here. It's not being multiplied by anything, so I add a 4 here. So from there, I'm going to do, and factor it, sorry. b minus 2, what are factors, plus 2. What are factors of 4 that add up to 4? 2. Remember, the answer is always right there, and there's 2 of them. It's 2 times 2. This gives me 27. Okay. Now I'm going to square root it and square root it. So this isn't a fraction this time, but it's not a nice square root. It's still going to be plus or minus square root of 27. Okay. So before I bring that negative 2 over, let's simplify square root of 27. Okay. What are factors of 27 that are perfect squares? Well, square root of 9 and square root of 3. Square root of 9 is 3, and then the square root of 3 just hangs out there. And then I just subtract my 2. So b equals negative 2 plus or minus 3 square root of 3. And that would be your answer. Please note, I didn't reduce down the radical over here because square root of 30 doesn't have any perfect squares in there. I already recognize that. But I recognize that square root of 27, oh, there's that 9 in there. There's that perfect square in there. Okay? Let's do one more. Let's do m squared plus 4m minus 16 equals 0. Okay. Sorry, got distracted. Okay, I'm going to add my 16 over. I get m squared plus 4m plus blank equals 16 plus blank. 4 over 2 squared is 2 squared, which is 4. So you add a 4 here, you add a 4 here. You get m plus 2, because again, your factor's always here. It's always just the b over 2, and there's 2 of them, so you square it. And that equals 20. Okay. Gonna square root this side, square root this side. So m plus 2 equals plus or minus square root of 20. Well, you gotta reduce down the square root of 20. What are factors of 20 that are perfect squares? So 2 and 10 are factors, they're not perfect squares. 4 and 5, 4 is a perfect square. Okay, so square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 5 just hangs out there. And then I just subtract my 2 over. And that would be my answer. So that's how you do completing the square with irrational solutions. Bye, guys.